Hey, you're listening to Births at Home, the podcast, with me, Esmeralda, as your host. I am a mama of three, fellow home birther, doula, and birth keeper. I am completely obsessed with birth, more specifically, home birth. And this is the podcast where women come to share their home birth stories along with the journey that led them down the path to home birth. Whether you're pregnant, planning a home birth with your first or fourth baby, or even is just someone who is a complete birth nerd like me, this is the podcast for you. Let's get right into this week's home birth story. We are on episode 40 today, and this is the episode that is launching us into season three. I can't believe we are already into season three and on episode 40. That is such a milestone for me that the podcast has come this far. And I am just so happy and excited to have all of you here listening to the podcast. This episode is going to be a little bit different. There are no home birth stories that will be shared in this episode, but it is going to be filled with very helpful information, especially if you are currently pregnant and planning for a home birth. Even if you're not pregnant right now, but you plan to be in the future and will be having a home birth sometime, this will all be helpful information. So make sure you continue listening on. I do want to start off by giving you guys a little bit of an update. If you haven't seen already over on my Instagram, I have recently joined a birth keeper midwifery program. And inside this program, I am going to be studying basically traditional midwifery. But the ultimate goal is not to become a midwife. I am actually becoming a birth keeper. I already hold that title as a birth keeper, but I do just want more wisdom, more knowledge for the women that I am serving. And so, although I already hold that title as a birth keeper, I just want to expand my knowledge and know as much as I can for the women that I am serving so that I can best help and guide them on their journey to their birth. And by the time we get to their birth, they already have all of the knowledge and tools that they need to have the birth that they were wanting. Like I said, my goal is not to become a midwife. I do not want to hold a license, and I do not want to be held back by any policies or guidelines or anything that the government says I can or can't do. And that is why I am not looking to hold the title of a midwife. I am holding and continuing to hold the title of a birth keeper. I am also still going to be doing doula services and doula support as well, which would be for anyone who does hire a midwife who holds that title, is licensed. Even if they're unlicensed, I would still be a doula for them, but that's more for who the doula support is for. The birth keeper support is more for women who are leaning towards wanting a free birth or who are having a hard time finding any midwives who are okay with not following policies, not following guidelines, and are worried about losing their license if they have this client. So, those are the women that I will be serving as a birth keeper and not as a doula. I hope that makes sense to you guys. If you have any more questions, I would be more than happy to answer them about what a birth keeper is, what a birth keeper does, anything like that. So just feel free to message me over on Instagram. My name is at Births at Home. So it's the same on all platforms. That way it's easy for you to find me anywhere. Okay, now let's get into the actual topic that I wanted to bring up today, and that is birth mindset. So, again, if you've been following me on Instagram, you have seen recently that I've been talking a lot about your mindset going into birth. And the reason for that is because so many birth accounts and birth courses will talk about the logistics of birth meaning physiological birth education and labor coping techniques and all of those things, different positions. And I actually made a birth course with the same exact thing. I was offering the same thing all of these birth courses offer. And that's because everyone thinks like, if I'm going to have a birth, I need to know about birth, right? So they go and they find all of these facts, all of these statistics about birth, and just learn as much information as they can. They go and listen to all of the birth story podcasts, all of the midwives and OBs who have podcasts with birth information and birth education. They soak in all of this. And I'm not saying that that's not what you want to do, that it's not helpful. Obviously, it's very helpful and it is really good prep. But where I found a big disconnect was the mindset. So a lot of people will talk about mindset and kind of just say, oh, yeah, like you have to work on your mindset too. You have to release your fears, but they don't dive deep into it. They just kind of are surface level with it. And it's more about the education and the knowledge that they are putting into courses and books and education, all of that. So, what I really saw, especially in the births that I have attended, is that you can have all of this information. You can have all of this knowledge. You can know all the stats off the top of your head, and you can still, in your birth, not feel prepared. And I had so many women not understanding why they did not feel as prepared as they thought that they were. And after looking at everything, figuring out like what happened in their birth, kind of uncovering the root of what exactly happened and why do they feel that way after their birth, the bottom line was that their mind was not fully prepared for the state that you are going to go into during birth. You might be thinking, but birth is so physical. Like you have the contractions that are physically happening, and you have to be moving around, and you have to be doing this to help with the pain. And so it's more physical, isn't it? But that's not actually the case. I would actually say that birth is 20% physical and actually 80% mental. It is a complete mind game. And if you have not prepared your mind for that, you are not going to end up with the birth that you are wanting. It's not to say that you are going to have a traumatizing birth or you aren't going to have a successful home birth. It's just to say that it's probably not going to turn out the way that you thought it was going to. Okay, so how can you prepare your mindset? How can you change that to make sure that you are prepared? What is my birth mindset? How do I change it? How does it form? What can I do to prepare for my birth? And if that is you currently wondering all of this, if you currently have any fears surrounding your birth, that is part of your mindset. If you have trouble listening to your body and your intuition, that is part of your birth mindset. If you are using negative language around birth or your birth in general, that is your birth mindset. And all of these are things that are very common in women who are coming up close to their birth. So that's why I wanted to take the time to host a free live workshop for anyone who's currently pregnant or knows that they want to be pregnant in the future. This workshop is going to be for you so that you can learn how to best prepare your birth mindset. This workshop is going to be completely free. It will be on March 1st, and you can easily register through my website, and I'll also leave a link down below where you can easily just find it and register for that class. I really do believe that this is an essential part of your birth preparation, and it is key to having the birth that you want. So I really hope that you sign up for this workshop and are able to attend. Even if you're not able to make it for that date and time, I still highly recommend for you to register and sign up for this workshop because I will be recording it and sending out a replay to everyone who registered. So even if you can't make it, you can watch the replay later on because this information is really valuable and it is needed in the birth community because it is not talked about enough. I really hope to see you in the workshop or at least have you view it later on as a replay. As a doula and birth keeper, I serve women who want to have a physiological and intuitive birth. Women who are ready to take radical responsibility for their birth and want to be the authority in their birth. This is not a job or career for me. This is much bigger, something deeper. This is soul work, my ultimate passion, because I trust women and I trust birth. I have both in-person and virtual offerings available, including birth services, birth circles, courses, mentorships, freebies, and much more. For more information on everything that I offer, the link is down below in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd love for you to share with any family or friends who may benefit from these stories and experiences. To further support this podcast, I'd appreciate if you would leave a 5-star rating and review, or you can even make a loving donation on my website at birthsathome.com/products/podcast-donation. Tune in next week for another home birth story.